It has been a week. It's been full of joy and celebration, wonderings and ponderings, awe, grief, and now joy beyond belief. All of that in just a week. But what a week. To fully understand this week, though, requires going a bit beyond it. There was a time not too long ago that I wouldn't be with you now. 7 demons had invaded my body. My family, my beloved, and I spent tons of money trying to find a solution, but nothing worked. My body was all but a prison. I couldn't quite move. My words seemed not to be my own, and I had no ability to function in society. Then I met Jesus. I was sitting by the Sea of Galilee, not far from my home in Magdalene, and I met Jesus. He came up to me and said, "Woman, why are you weeping?" I had been crying. It had been so long, I had gone through so much, that I simply let it all out. I told him my story, my frustration. I let go of all of my pain. When I was done, he looked at me, took me in his arms, and said to me, "Woman, do you wish to be well?" And I did. I desperately did. So he healed me. He said, "Demons, come out." And the demons within me left. I was in my right mind. I could use my body again. I was cured. The demons were out. I was myself for the first time in years. After this, he looked at me and said, "Mary, follow me." Honestly, what else could I do? I talked to my family and my beloved. Then I left the life I knew and began to be a disciple of Jesus. I have never regretted it. Through the many miles, the amazing moments, and the confusing ones, I have loved being one of his disciples. I have also been grateful to my family. Their resources and willingness to share has not only allowed me to follow, but also to support this ministry. But then, this week happened. Sunday was exciting. We marched into Jerusalem with a big parade. We announced to the world that Jesus was here. We reminded all of them that God is king, not Caesar. It seemed to go so well. Even during the week, the crowds were engaged and interested, and Jesus' teaching seemed to take on a whole different level. There was such meaning, such life-changing words with him this past week. Then on Thursday, we celebrated the Passover. In some ways, it was just like all the other meals we have shared together as a group. But in other ways, it was something new and different. I don't think I have the words yet to describe what that meal was like. But I know I will never eat bread or drink wine the same way again. But the week didn't end at dinner on Thursday night. No, the week continued into the garden where Jesus was arrested. It continued into a trial, first before the Sanhedrin and then before Pontius Pilate. I say trial, but really the outcome was predetermined. Jesus and his teachings of love and community and nonviolence were too much of a threat to the empire and to the temple leadership to be allowed to continue. I think we all knew it. I think even Jesus knew it. Perhaps that's why he spent so much time these past few weeks talking about his death, talking about the cross. It was almost as if he could see the future. But really, it was no surprise. Of course, that didn't make it hurt any less. The journey up to Golgotha was the worst. I could see Jesus straining. Already the beatings and the mockings had caused him to lose a lot of blood. I wasn't surprised when they forced that poor man, I think his name was Joseph, to carry his cross for a while. It was clear that Jesus couldn't make it there. And there's nothing the Romans liked more to do than to spread the suffering around. They weren't going to let Jesus die on the street, though. They wanted to make an example of him so that anyone else who had his ideas of not just following the ways of the empire might understand their fate. But the time on the hill wasn't much better. It was also humiliating. The sign over his head, "The King of the Jews." I sometimes wonder if Pontius Pilate did that more to annoy the temple leaders or to proclaim to all of us in a not quite so subtle way what happens to anyone who claims kingship over the empire. The stripping of Jesus' cloak with the soldiers grappling for it, the giving of vinegar as if it was a soothing drink, all of it meant to heap as much scorn as possible upon my friend. Of course, the moment where he drew his last breath is ingrained forever in my memory. He quoted Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me?" He cried out with a loud shout. Then he almost whispered, "It is finished," and breathed his last. I saw it all. I never left his side. There was not as much danger for me as a woman as for the rest of the disciples. And I was determined to be with Jesus until the end. He had healed me. He had given me new life. I could do no less. As I watched them lay Jesus in the tomb, I felt as if they were burying a part of me. I knew that what life would never be the same again. I knew that this week would mark an epic, a moment that would forever change me. I just didn't know how much. You see, this morning I went back to the tomb. I wanted to be near my master and friend one more time. I wanted to give him the respect and time and spices that the Romans would never have allowed on Friday. But when I got there, the stone was rolled away. When I got there, the tomb was empty. When I got there, Jesus was gone. At first, I wept. It wasn't enough that they had killed my Lord. Now they couldn't even leave the body alone. But then I heard a voice, "Woman, why are you weeping?" I couldn't believe it. It was the phrase, the voice that I had first heard so long ago. Was it possible? Then Jesus called me by name, Mary. He called me by name. He told me about the scriptures, how they pointed to his death and now resurrection. Then he sent me to tell the disciples. He sent me, told me that I was called to be the first to tell this good news. That death is not the end. That new life might yet reign. That's what I'm doing now, because I was right. After this week, nothing will ever be the same. And I can't wait to see the life that God brings me next.